welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Sharmeen Ali. The Chief of Army Staff, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, has visited the line of control, and while he was there, he said that Pakistan is fully prepared to thwart any misadventure. And he also went and visited the people who were injured and affected by the cross-border firing by the Indian Army over the weekend on Saturday. Lives were lost, among them women and small children, teenage boys were killed, and it's been a very unfortunate incident, and it continues, especially since August 5th, since the tensions in Indian-occupied Kashmir have increased after the revocation of Article 370 and 35A. The line of control firing from the Indian side on innocent civilians has also increased. And so General Qamar Javed Bajwa was there at the line of control with the troops and with those who have suffered. Also, we'll be discussing in today's program Pakistan's Sustainable Development Goals. And in this, we will be talking about how Pakistan aims to achieve these goals as far as eliminating hunger and poverty are concerned, bringing across more gender equality, more inclusiveness amongst all the people in the country, and better education and healthcare for everyone by the year 2030. So some very interesting topics that we'll be hearing about today. But first, let's talk about what is happening at the line of control while General Bajwa visited there and the statements he made. We have with us online to discuss this Mr. Abdul Basit, who's an analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us online.
Thanks for having me.
Basit Saab, now General Bajwa visited the line of control, and his statements that Pakistan is fully prepared to thwart any misadventure. We've seen that over the last couple of days and weeks, the tensions along the line of control have increased, especially in light of the situation in India, where you have all these protests going on across the country. So your views on this, sir?
I think what you have said sums up the situation quite well. When the current government of BJP under Prime Minister Modi passed the controversial Citizen Amendment Act, it has galvanized protests across India. These protests are cutting across political lines, social divides. People from all segments of life are protesting right now. And they did not anticipate that the backlash will be this strong, and now they are struggling to control the situation. So not only they have slowly backtracking from the controversial amendments and bills that they introduced, but they are trying to externalize the threat as well. So you have seen that there has been, very severe criticism of the situation in Kashmir, as well as what India is doing to its minority through these bills, NRC and now Citizen Amendment Act. So India is trying to externalize the threat. A couple of days ago in a speech, Prime Minister Modi tried dragging Pakistan into the debate, which he couldn't do so because, of course, Pakistan has nothing to do with it. And now this is their old tactic, that once you are struggling at the domestic front, LOC becomes hot. So I think This is one way for the Modi government to deviate the criticism it is getting, not only domestically, regionally, but also globally. The United States has criticized Indian government. Modi is getting a lot of bad press. He's getting a lot of backlash domestically, and he has faced criticism, very fair criticism from Pakistan for what it has done in Kashmir, as well what it is doing to the religious minorities, particularly the Muslim community in India. So I think this is one way of externalizing the threat and trying to deviate the attention from their own failures.
Right. Now, General Bajwa has also said that Pakistan will not budge from its principal stand in the just right of the Kashmiri people. Obviously, in this situation, the Kashmiri situation is still very much at the forefront after revocation of Article 370 and 35A. All these things happened in India with relatively little response, but now we've seen that the discrimination is spread all over the country. However, Pakistan's stand on Kashmir will remain the same. The rest of the country, whatever is happening there is in India's own matter. However, the army chief has said that we will continue to support the Kashmiris on their right to self-determination.
Absolutely. I mean, Kashmir is the cornerstone of our foreign policy. It is the unfinished agenda of the partition, and India unilaterally cannot do anything in Kashmir. On top of that, 8 million people in Kashmir are under virtual house arrest. They are cut out from the world. Internet is suspended, telecommunication services are suspended. We hardly know what is going on there. More than 13,000 young boys and children have been put in jails on no charges. So I think, the sport will continue no matter what. India has to answer for the human rights violation, gross human rights violation it has conducted in Kashmir. And the backlash is going to increase because right now, I think this Modi government has miscalculated almost everything since it came back to power for the second term. Modi seems power drunk. The decision it has taken, so this unilateral decision of revocating Article 370 has backfired in a sense that right now India is riding a tiger, and they do not know how to dismount. What does that mean? If they, lift the sanctions they have imposed in Kashmir, there will be protests, mass protests across Kashmir, and the world is going to know the kind of violations, gross violations they have committed there. And if Modi continues to impose restrictions which is currently imposing, I tell you, it is financially very taxing, and psychologically it takes a toll on the security forces which are currently deployed in Kashmir. So the longer he continues with the current policy, they will continue to get bad press. They will continue to get diplomatic pressure from the region, from the world, Muslim countries, from the UN, other organizations, Amnesty International, etc. But if they go for, relaxing the environment in Kashmir, then the protests will erupt out. And now the mainstream Indian intelligentsia and civil societies are also speaking quite openly against violations committed in Kashmir, because now they can see what the designs of this Modi government are vis-a-vis the minorities in mainland India as well. So I think right now India under Prime Minister Modi is caught in a catch-22 or between the devil and the deep blue sea. They do not know how to move forward. They cannot sustain this in the longer term. And what Pakistan needs to do, as the army chief said, they will continue to put pressure on them diplomatically and do not, move an inch from supporting them in whatever way we can. And the ceasefire violations along the line of control, there is a pattern in there. If you look at the figures, since the revocation of Article 370, there have been, which was in August, so in the last 4 to 5 months, there have been 950 ceasefire violations. So you can clearly see that there is a pattern here. There were only 869 violations in the whole year in 2017, but 950 violations only in 3 to 4 months since Article 370 was revoked. So you can clearly see that these ceasefire violations is a way for the Modi government and the Indian army to divert the attention from the violations in Kashmir and use Pakistan as a pretext to deviate attention, the usual things that they do.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us online, Mr. Abdul Basit. And now we're going to go on to our next segment. We're going to talk about Pakistan's sustainable development goals, that by 2030, what steps are we taking as a country in order to achieve these sustainable development goals, which include eliminating poverty and hunger and enhancing and improving education, gender equality, and many, many other such aims. Let's have a look at this in our report.
Pakistan is committed to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development right from its inception in 2015. In February 2016, it became the first country to adopt the Sustainable Development Goals as part of its National Development Agenda. Pakistan is progressing on several fronts. The National Poverty Alleviation Program (SARS) was launched in 2019 to expand the social protection, safety nets and support human capital development throughout the country. Stunting and malnutrition have decreased between 2013 and 2018 by 6 and 9% respectively. The prevalence of skilled birth attendants has improved by 17%, while the neonatal mortality rate fallen by 10% during the same period. The Lady Health Workers Program has been instrumental in achieving these improvements. Improving access to and the quality of education is a key national priority for Pakistan. Its focus is on improved school monitoring mechanisms along with targeted interventions for out-of-school children. While the female literacy remains low, Pakistan has initiated actions to protect the environment and contribute to minimizing the adverse impacts of climate change. The government has launched the Naya Pakistan housing program, whereby houses will be constructed and offered an affordable price to a much larger segment of population by offering them the facility to avail long-term loans for purchasing them. Pakistan is advancing towards its commitment to the 2030 Agenda. Despite economic and financial challenges, Pakistan will continue to work towards achieving the SDGs through innovative, targeted and focused implementation strategies in the social, economic and environmental spheres.
So a lot of work ahead of us in Pakistan to achieve these sustainable development goals, and to discuss how we're going to get there, we have with us from the Planning Commission of Pakistan, Mr. Mohammad Saleh, who's the Assistant Chief of SDGs, and also Mr. Ali Kamal, who's the Economic Policy Advisor. Thank you both for joining us today on PTV World. Sir Mohammad Saleh, I'd like to begin with you. Now, these are a lot of goals to be achieved by 2030. We have just over a decade to do them. So let me ask you to begin that how has Pakistan adopted these sustainable development goals, which were obviously an initiative of the United Nations in 2015, and then it was passed by Parliament. So please give us your input on that. Sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for inviting us. This is basically, the Sustainable Development Goals are basically a precursor to the Medium Development Goals in Pakistan, and Pakistan, it was the first country in the world to adopt the Sustainable Development Goals, and its national parliament passed it through a unanimous resolution. So it was a really achievement on our part, and I'm glad to share here that we not only have adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, but the political commitment at the level of the government, which was perhaps missing earlier during the MDGs, now it is there, and we have a very broad institutional structure as well, where we have a task force at the national parliament level. Then at the federal and the provincial and the area government level, we have the sustainable SDGs units, which are main coordinating bodies who are responsible for ensuring coordination and for reporting SDGs.
Right, okay. So, sir, Mr. Ali Kamal, now this is a very important factor because a lot of these issues have been devolved to the provinces. So now to coordinate amongst the provinces, how do we aim to implement these actually on the ground with the provinces? Because there's a limit to how much the federal government can actually achieve, where, you know, a lot of the actual powers are with the provinces.
Here comes the role of coordination, basically. So when we talk about the devolution or devolved powers, 70% of the SDGs are basically will be implemented by the provinces. And we have asked provinces, or we have requested provinces to implement those in a summary, which was sent in 2018 and approved by the National Economic Council. That these are our priority goals. If you differ with us, then you can have your own goals, and they came up with their own framework right now. They are implementing those goals, those targets at the field level and with the district, with the DC offices, and they're waiting for the local bodies elections as well. That whenever it is going to happen, it will be implemented through the local government and the DC government or the Deputy Commissioner office.
Right.
So,
So how far away are we from actual local districts coordinating these particular goals as far as all these different areas are concerned, health, education, etc.? Because, you know, as far as managing their own finances and everything, because they are the ones who are going to be implementing this primarily.
as far as managing their own financing is concerned, NFC is there, and federal is giving them their due share, whatever was decided in 2010.
Right.
And then there is the private sector who is helping all the tier of governments in implementing these SDGs. Because there is a component in private sector which is very important. It's called corporate social responsibility. It has shared value, corporate
Okay.
philanthropy, and responsible business initiative. Under that, there are several indicators which can be covered by the private sector.
Okay.
So private sector hand in hand is working with the government sector, all tier of the government sector, to implement SDGs at the local level.
Okay, I just want to go into these SDGs just so that our viewers know what they are now. There's 17 goals, and as far as our priorities, the first batch of priorities that we have are zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, clean water and sanitation, affordable clean energy, decent work, economic growth, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. So,
Exactly.
Mohammed Saab, these main priorities, and obviously there's a list of the rest as well. Very important, zero hunger. That is, I think, number one on our priority list right now. How do we aim to achieve that?
For zero hunger, it was very important that you know that the very first thing in achieving SDGs is that you have a credible data. So when we looked at that goal, we saw that in Pakistan we were not having a data gathered in a coordinated manner, and then at what you can say at a coordinated institution. So we collaborated with our our development partners, but also with the PBS, and then we have made sure that the data related to food security is gathered through survey, and I'm glad to share that the recent highest data, which will be coming up in March this year, it will have a module on food security of FIAS. So once we will have that data source, we can make informed decision to ensure that targeted interventions are made.
Okay.
Second point is that we are making sure through our SDGs units, which we have at the federal and at the provincial level, that the policies and the plan of actions, particularly the nutrition policy. Let me share at this forum that right now, unfortunately in Pakistan, we don't have any national nutrition policy. But we are advocating both at the national level and at the provincial level to have a very robust national nutrition policy,
Okay.
which is aligned with our SDGs as well. Once we have that thing in place, then we will have the data source which will guide us to make targeted interventions.
Okay, and I'm going to briefly touch over the other ones so that then we can actually get into the details. Now, good health and well-being, sir, how are we going to tackle this in the provinces? Because we know that our medical system, especially where the state is involved, needs a lot of work. So how do we go about this?
So one of the best ministry which is working on the SDGs is Health Ministry. They are coordinating with all the provinces, AJK, GB. They are doing very good right now. We had their representative with us in another meeting, and they have their own dashboard portal. They have their allocations on that dashboard. They can link that dashboard with the outcomes. But the issue is that health is not all alone in isolation can achieve the health goals, because if we have clean water and sanitation, we have half of the health will be covered with that. If not half, maybe the quarter.
Yeah.
And then
All
food
these
security,
areas are interlinked as well.
basically it is synergies or integration which needs to be developed, which needs to be enhanced at the federal and the provincial level with other goals, because without that it cannot be achieved, the main target.
Right.
So health goals are all the indicators, whether it's a communicable diseases, whether it's the mortality rates, whether it's non-communicable diseases. Suppose dengue, they have a specific temperature on which the dengue mosquitoes are nurtured, and if we get rid of that temperature of water, then we don't have any dengue problem.
Okay.
So there are several issues to those problems which right now we are facing, and we need that causation, number one. Then implementing partner, whether it's a government or a private sector or a CSO, who can work with the government to implement on those. And Health Ministry is doing very good.
A lot of work has to be
bad.
done on sanitation and hygiene, as we've seen. That's been a huge problem in the past. Sir, quality education. Now we know that Pakistan's future is really heavily relying on quality education for our youth, because we have a massive youth population here, and also to get them ready with the required skill set for the future, and for all of the projects in CPEC, etc. So your input on this, what's being done with that?
Quality education is a very crucial indicator, and during MDGs it was largely focused on access to education, but the SDGs are different from MDGs in a way that they are focusing on the quality of the education. They are not we are no more talking about access to education. We are talking about what is the quality of education with whatever we are giving to our youth. The government of Pakistan, under the SDGs, we have sponsored in the past detailed study on what are the existing indicators to measure quality. Minimum standard quality education is basically a survey which is being sponsored by the erstwhile Education Ministry, and we have some agreed indicators, but still there is a lot of data gaps in how we measure the quality of education in Pakistan. Because
and how about the uniform system that we've been hearing about? Is that incorporated in this?
And again, the government is basically not only concerned about uniformity in the content of the education, whatever we are teaching to our youth, and at the early childhood level, but also we are concerned that the quality of education is measured in a unified manner as well, because education now after the 18th Amendment is a provincial subject. So we are making sure that whatever and however the quality is measured, it is measured in a standardized manner. To develop those standards, so how quality will be measured.
We have to go on to a break. We'll be right back. As soon as we've taken this break, please stay with us. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Now, what we were discussing about Pakistan's Sustainable Development Goals, we're going to continue with that. And now, Mr. Ali Kamal, can you just tell us now what challenges do we face? Because there's a lot of things that we are trying to sort of target, such as we talked about health, we talked about zero hunger, this poverty, gender equality, and peace, justice, strong institutions. What are the challenges that we are going to face going forward?
So a lot has done. Enabling environment is trying to be created. As you mentioned, the category 1, category 2, and category 3 of the prioritization. The category 1 basically is the enabling environment which we need to provide, and we are working on that. Category 2 is the outcome based on the enabling environment, and the third one is the sustainability measures which we need to take. So we have to address all the three issues simultaneously in the presence of very low, in the presence of austerity measures which government is taking, very low growth. There are no taxes. Private sector is shrinking. Private sector, when it is shrinking, it is not contributing enough in the CSR as well. So these are some of the challenges which we are facing right now. But as we are expecting that from the next year, the growth will pick up. So we will have the growth will pick up. The private sector will be investing in SDGs as well. People are getting employment. They will have their own money to invest in their own health, in their own education, in their own food security. These are all the issues which can be taken care by the government involvement, private sector, and by their own, because hand washing is one of the things which we can do anytime, whether we have money or not.
Exactly. So it has to be done. Mohammed Salis, what about you? How well along are we in terms of resources, and how prepared are we to achieve these sustainable development goals?
Resources is a big challenge right now, and if you talk about the financial resources and how well are we prepared to finance our sustainable development goals, it's with our macroeconomic situation, and when we are having twin deficits, it's a big challenge right now, and government is quite cognizant of the situation. And For this, the goal 17 is basically building partnerships. And government has taken the lead in this regard, and we have developed a framework which we call it responsible business framework, which is basically a step ahead from the CSR. So under that framework, we are looking towards the private sector, which is a very good sort of resource available. So we basically are encouraging private sector to channelize their corporate social whatever the corporate social responsibility they are carrying out, that is well targeted, that is aligned with our SDGs agenda as well.
Right.
Secondly, we are also exploring other innovative arrangements that we can have. We can also working with other private sector entities to finance our financing gap.
So a lot of work needs to be done, and everybody needs to work together, government, private sector, provinces, the center. It's a big monumental task for everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammad Saleh and Ali Kamal sir from the Planning Commission.
Welcome.
That's all the time we have for today's program. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Newsroom.